Seneca wrote, "The man who cannot keep silent before himself will never find peace in the world." Imagine a warrior before battle. It is not the cry that defines his victory, but the silence he carries while sharpening his sword. At this very moment, you are surrounded by incessant voices, notifications pulsing on your screen, opinions invading your ears, demands tearing your attention into 1,000 pieces. But there is one voice that has been forgotten, silenced by the noise of modern existence. Your own, silent and observant, the one that witnesses everything without needing to shout to be heard. Contemporary man seeks self-improvement like someone collecting weapons without ever having learned to truly fight. He reads books stacked on the shelf, listens to podcasts while driving in traffic, trains his body to exhaustion in the gym, but the mind remains a chaotic battlefield, without a general, without a strategy, without direction. Socrates reminded us with a simplicity that spans centuries, "Know thyself," not as a seductive invitation to contemporary narcissism, but as an ancient call to full consciousness. Because man's greatest enemy doesn't walk the streets outside, doesn't hide in the criticism of others. It lies in the profound inability to observe what happens within, in the silent theater of one's own mind. The question that guides this path is seemingly simple, but piercing as a sharp blade in the darkness. Who is truly in charge when you lose control? In the next few minutes, you will discover the method that Rome preserved and modernity has forgotten. The one that separates the man who reacts from the man who responds, the divided man from the whole man. If this message has already resonated somewhere deep within you, leave a like now. It helps spread awareness to other men seeking the same path. There's a kind of tiredness that even the deepest sleep can't cure, an exhaustion born not of the body, but of the constant conflict between what you want to be and what your mind insists on repeating like a broken record. It's like a wind that never stops blowing, sweeping away thoughts that carry you to the past laden with regrets, or to the phantom future of anxieties that don't yet exist, never allowing you to simply inhabit the present, this one moment that is real. Seneca observed this in the men who walked the streets of Rome, dressed in togas and carrying concerns identical to his own. And this pattern is alive, pulsating, and intensified in men today. We suffer not for what happened, but for the judgment we make about it. You carry conversations that were never resolved, imaginary criticisms people never said, catastrophic scenarios that never occurred and probably never will. Your physical body is here, sitting or standing in this space, but your consciousness is scattered into 1,000 bright, sharp fragments, scattered across time and mental space. The divided man is not inherently weak. He simply forgot to stop, forgot that between external stimulus and automatic reaction there is a sacred space, a silent void where true freedom resides. Socrates called this the daimon, the inner voice that observes without judging, that sees without becoming emotionally involved, that witnesses the theater of existence without taking the stage. But you silenced it with manufactured urgency, with toxic productivity, with a neurotic rush to be someone important in the eyes of a world that barely knows you. The deafening noise you experience is merely the distorted echo of what you forgot to hear in the silence. Have you ever felt like you're always busy, moving frantically, but rarely truly present? This is the most subtle and dangerous deception of the modern mind, mistaking frenetic activity for genuine progress, movement for direction. You change habits like changing clothes, altering your entire routine in the hope of different results, consuming more male self-improvement content than you can process, but the fundamental restlessness remains untouched, vibrating at the core of your being. Because you're treating superficial symptoms, not the root cause that fuels all the suffering. Seneca was as blunt as a Roman sword. There is no favorable wind for those who do not know where they are going. Contemporary man navigates the turbulent oceans of life without a functional inner compass, chasing dopamine spikes, likes that feed the ego, achievements that impress strangers, external validation that needs constant renewal. But with each fleeting peak follows a greater, deeper, more devouring void. It's like trying to quench a genuine thirst by drinking salt water. The more you drink, the thirstier you become, in a cycle that perpetuates itself until total exhaustion. The ego convinces you, with a seductive and familiar voice, that you must control absolutely everything. The uncertain future, the people around you, even your own uncontrollable thoughts. But Socrates revealed the greatest irony of human existence. I only know that I know nothing. Genuine wisdom begins precisely the moment you stop fighting furiously against the river of life and learn to consciously navigate it, respecting its natural current. Absolute control is a seductive illusion. Conscious presence is the only accessible reality. If you deeply recognize yourself in this, stay with me until the end. There is an ancient truth that changes everything when truly understood. Here's the secret the Roman Stoics held, and which modernity has completely forgotten in its rush toward superficiality. You don't need to change your thoughts like rearranging furniture in a cramped room. You need to fundamentally change your relationship to them, the way you position yourself in the face of the mental flow. Seneca practiced daily an exercise he called premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils, not to become a bitter pessimist who sees catastrophes around every corner, but to become genuinely unfazed by the inevitable storms of existence. He observed his deepest fears, his paralyzing anxieties, his compulsive desires, not to violently destroy them or repress them with willpower, but to disarm them through conscious and detached observation. Socrates did essentially the same thing through aporia, the philosophical state of not knowing, of suspending automatic judgment. He didn't seek ready-made, comfortable answers, but methodically dissolved the false questions that generated unnecessary suffering. Because most of your daily suffering comes from the wrong questions you ask yourself. Why did this specifically happen to me? When the real question, the only one that generates power, is, how do I consciously choose to respond to what happened? Think of a clean, polished mirror. It reflects absolutely everything that passes before it, but it doesn't cling to anything, doesn't judge whether the image is beautiful or ugly, doesn't try to hold the reflection as it passes. Your mind can be that mirror, clear as spring water, effortlessly present, undistorted by likes and dislikes. It's not cold, inhuman indifference. It's deep discernment, the ability to see things as they truly are, not as the ego would like them to be. Modern psychology calls this metacognition, the ability to observe one's own mental processes. The Stoics called it prosoche, vigilant attention, presence that doesn't sleep, awareness that witnesses without involvement. Inner silence isn't the absence of thoughts like a dead void. It's total presence without effort, without struggle, without resistance. Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome and Stoic philosopher, wrote in his nightly meditations, "You have power over your mind, not over external events. Realize this, and you will find strength." A man's true power lies not in mastering the chaotic world around him, but in mastering the perceptions he creates about that world. Two men can experience the same event. One comes away destroyed, the other strengthened. The difference lies not in the event itself, but in how each chooses to interpret and respond to it. If this idea makes you think differently about everything you previously believed, subscribe. This channel exists to keep the flame of male consciousness alive in an age of mass distraction. Now, abstract philosophy descends from the realm of ideas and becomes a concrete, transformative experience in your daily life. Seneca dedicated himself every night before bed to a simple but profoundly transformative exercise, reviewing the entire day without moral judgment, without psychological punishment. Not to cruelly punish himself for mistakes, but to know himself with brutal and compassionate honesty. He asked himself, in a calm inner voice, "At what precise moment did I cease to be the conscious observer and become the prisoner of my own thoughts and automatic reactions?" Here's an ancient practice you can start implementing today, right now, without needing any special equipment or advanced knowledge: the 3-breath pause. When you feel anxiety rising in your chest, anger boiling in your veins, or the automatic impulse to react to provocation, pause completely. 3 deep, conscious breaths. On the first long, deliberate breath, you simply observe the thought arising like a cloud in the sky of consciousness, without trying to change or repress it. On the second, even deeper breath, You acknowledge the emotion accompanying that thought without completely merging with it, without saying, "I am this anger" or "I am this anxiety." On the third breath, the most important, you consciously choose your response, not from the urgency of the automatic reaction, but from the clarity of present awareness. This changes absolutely everything in your daily life. At work, when an important project fails miserably, you don't become the failure. You remain the observer witnessing an undesirable outcome. In a relationship, when the inevitable conflict with your partner arises, you don't become the flaming anger. You remain the conscious space where the anger arises and eventually dissipates. You remain the unperturbed observer, the still center amidst the chaotic movement of the world. Socrates said with a clarity that spans millennia, "The unexamined life is not worth living." But here's the secret that few realize. You don't examine your life to cruelly criticize every mistake, but to progressively free yourself from the invisible chains of unconscious identification. Practice this for 7 consecutive days and observe the change. When someone unfairly criticizes you at work, pause before responding defensively. When you receive disturbing news, pause before drowning in anxiety about possible futures. When you feel the urge to check your phone for the 100th time that day, pause and ask, "Who inside me is seeking this distraction? What am I trying to avoid feeling?" The practice doesn't make you perfect and immune to suffering. It makes you aware, present, able to choose your responses instead of being dragged along by automatic reactions programmed since childhood. If this practice resonates deeply with you, subscribe. Each video here is a carefully constructed rung on the ladder of masculine consciousness. There's a defining moment in every man's journey who decides to walk this path when something fundamental shifts within him. It's not dramatic like in Hollywood movies. It's not an explosion of heavenly lights and sounds. It's like a lake that, after a violent storm has passed, finally quiets down, allowing you to see the bottom through the crystal-clear surface. You look into this mirrored surface and realize with a clarity that cuts like a blade. It was always there, calm and serene at the bottom. You just couldn't see it through the constant churning of the waves on the surface. The person who practices Stoic attention daily does not magically become invulnerable to the pains of human existence. He becomes unbreakable at the core of his being, because he has finally understood, not just intellectually but viscerally, that authentic strength lies not in never falling or never suffering, but in never completely identifying with the fall, in never becoming the suffering. Your thoughts continue to arise as they always have, 1,000 a day, perhaps more, but now you see them with new clarity, like passing clouds passing through the infinite sky of consciousness, temporarily present, but not permanent, not solid, not you. Seneca died as he lived, in conscious silence and profound dignity, even faced with Nero's death order, even with his veins slowly being opened. Socrates drank poison hemlock without losing his characteristic serenity, discussing philosophy with his disciples until his last breath, because they both knew, with a certainty that transcends the fear of death, you are not your fleeting thoughts, you are not your fleeting emotions, you are not even this aging body. You are the one who observes all this with a silent and eternal awareness, the empty space where everything arises and to which everything returns. This is the fundamental transformation that separates eras in a man's life, from the man who reacts automatically to every stimulus to the man who responds consciously from an immobile center, from the man who desperately seeks outside to the man who finally finds within. From the man divided into 1,000 painful fragments to the man whole, unified, complete. A warrior's true strength lies not in the terrifying scream he lets out before the attack, but in the deep, unshakable stillness that precedes that scream, in the serenity that allows for the right action at the right moment. Comment, presence. If you feel this truth echoing somewhere deep within you, this is the silent seal of those beginning to awaken from the collective dream. Let us now return to the warrior at the beginning of this journey, the one who sharpened his sword in absolute silence before the decisive battle. Now you understand, not just with your mind but with your entire being. The most important battle any man faces is not against the hostile world outside, against visible enemies, against adverse circumstances. It is against the deeply ingrained illusion that you must constantly fight, that you must control everything, that you must become someone other than who you already are at your deepest core. Seneca and Socrates did not leave us sophisticated techniques of external conquest, magic formulas for mastering the material world. They left us something infinitely more valuable: the precise map of the inner territory, the path back home, to the silent center of one's being. Real, genuine male self-improvement, the kind that transforms and doesn't just gloss over the surface, isn't about accumulating impressive skills on your life's resume. It's about patiently removing, layer by layer, the illusions that prevent you from seeing who you truly are. It's not about becoming stronger through violent effort and neurotic competition. It's about discovering the strength that has always been there, silent as a mountain, patiently awaiting your conscious recognition, your full acceptance. The authentic sage does not cowardly flee from the inevitable chaos of existence. He learns to remain still and centered within it, like the immobile axle at the center of a furiously spinning wheel. Because the true freedom that every person seeks, consciously or unconsciously, does not lie in perfectly controlling external life and all its unpredictable variables. It lies in not being controlled by it, in not being swept away by the current, in maintaining one's still center even when everything around falls apart. If this philosophy resonates deeply within you like a bell ringing in the soul, subscribe to this channel. Here, each word is carefully chosen as an invitation to the silence that awakens, the stillness that liberates, the presence that transforms. You realize now, with an indelible clarity, the desperate control you sought over external events, over people, over the uncertain future, wasn't about the world. It was about yourself. The entire universe has always been calling you back home, to the conscious silence that exists before the first thought and after the last. The agitated mind quiets when you stop feeding it with resistance. The self speaks when you finally learn to listen. Those who truly know themselves, who have seen their own reflection in the mirror of consciousness, never get lost in the labyrinths of existence. Don't seek silence as another achievement of the ego. Become it, dissolve into it, recognize that you have always been it. The path is open before you as it always has been. The question that echoes in the void now is, are you truly ready to walk?